What happens when a renowned retail store challenges the way that consumers, you and I, shop sustainably? Selfridges have their Project Earth initiative, which champions the reuse, the recycling, the repair and the rental of high-end goods. And then another British brand, Barbour, have masterminded their Reloved programme, where you can effectively trade in your worn out, damaged wax jacket, and they will lovingly repair, restore and even modify it to provide it with a new lease of life for a new home. Bring these two elements together in car form and you have a classic Land Rover Defender revitalised for the new world with fully electric underpinnings. I'm here in Wales to drive that car down to Selfridges in London. So you're probably thinking, how do you actually build a car like this? If you have an idea to come up with something like this, how do you execute it? Well, you come to somewhere like Electric Classic Cars and you speak to a bloke like this. He's called Richard. Hi, Richard.
Hey, Johnny, how's it going, mate?
Good to see you.
Here we are.
Where do you start?
First thing that happens when we drive it in, engine comes out, gearbox comes out, petrol tank, exhaust, and the fabrication guys then need to figure out, along with the electrical guys, how many batteries we can fit in and where.
It's a packaging exercise.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got 16 Tesla Model S modules, 10 of which are in here.
Yeah.
And 6 are in the rear, just to balance it out a little bit.
Okay.
And then obviously the motor is centrally mounted. So yeah, balance-wise, this is actually a really nicely balanced Land Rover. I can't believe I said that in the same sentence.
I was going to say, you don't often hear that with the Defender.
It's not your average engine bay, Johnny.
Well, it's not going to be TDI.
So it's 53 kilowatt hours of battery pack just in there.
Yeah, it's really smart. I have to say, I like the detail of the sort of spark.
The interior was commissioned by Barbour themselves. I think that's a nice synchronicity, if you like, with the whole rugged, outdoory sort of Defender. British, exactly.
Institution, pretty
exactly.
much. This is seriously luxurious in here.
We've had a chance to do the interior of the Defender, and what we wanted that to feel this lovely mashup between Selfridge and Barbour, so it's a true collaboration. My role really was just to advise on how the seats were set up. So we used our Barbour Classic tartan, which goes centrally down the seat. So we thought we'd quilt the leather part of the seats. So we have tartan and quilted leather on the front door panels and then on the fascia in front of you. And when you see it, I think it looks harmonious, looks really strong, and it's been balanced sensitively. I think, because you are limited to what those actual shapes are and which ones you determine should be quilted leather and which ones you should be determined as tartan. Obviously the skill's been in the people who's crafted and customised these seats. But they've used our fabrics and they've used our ethos of fabrication to come up with something that will be practical as well as beautiful looking.
Okay, let's go to Selfridges, the scenic way. I'm not going to lie to you, this is not the most direct route down to Selfridges. I wanted to do a little bit of off-roading, and actually electric vehicles are really good off-road because they've got instant torque from 0 RPM. They're quiet, so they're quite respectful to nature. That whir is not actually the electric motor. In this instance, it's the gearbox and the differentials in the axles. But it is absolutely effortlessly climbing up this. I mean, honestly, if I give it a quick squirt, it would just scrabble. It's now that you get to hear all the creaks from the suspension and squeaks from bits of the interior fittings that you don't normally hear when you've got a massive diesel engine thudding away under the bonnet. If I was using this only around central London, I'd probably get 170 miles of range driving it normally with a bit of motorway, bit of town, stuff like that. Probably going to get about 125, 130 miles. When you go downhill, you can capture a bit of energy through regenerative braking. So you're not actually using normal brakes, the motor is stalling itself and feeding a bit of energy into the batteries, which is really cool. It's absolutely beautiful up here. I've pretty much reached the summit. There's only one way down. Imagine a world where we consume less, but what we do consume lasts longer. That's the basic ethos behind this e-Defender and Selfridges Project Earth and Barbour's Reloved campaign. The collection of old Barbour jackets that have effectively been traded in, restored, repaired and modified, resto-modded. That's what the Reloved Barbour jackets are. That's what this, the electric Land Rover, is. And I see it as being given a bright new future. Sun's come out as we leave Wales. I want to see people get very, very curious about this car. And even if they don't think that it's a car for them, maybe a version of this recipe is right for them. You've got this huge amount of battery energy and this massive sledgehammer of performance that could be pretty embarrassing to a supercar owner. Just stopped to give it a little tickle of charge. I have to say though, doing the drive that I've just done, 45% of charge, 80-mile drive, that's a combination of a bit of fast, bit of slow, really pretty good. As I'm dropping down now into the picturesque Cotswolds, I'm going to be overnighting here and then in the morning heading to London via Oxford and a couple of other scenic places. This is Britain at its best. Well, last night coming into the Cotswolds was absolutely gorgeous. This morning, different story really. Good old British summer, rain. I'm glad I put my jacket on. As much as we love the style of the classic Defender, it wasn't a very aerodynamic car. It was never going to be the best car for EV in that respect, but it almost doesn't matter because it future-proofs a car that we all kind of love, a characterful car. And as time goes on, there's going to be more and more of these sorts of cars that get outlawed unless we give them organ transplants. Converting a car like this allows me to drive into the centre of cities without having to feel slightly guilty about belching smoke onto cyclists and pedestrians. I can hear a diesel engine running and I know it's not mine. It's the Land Rover behind me. Of course, beyond the that Barbour tartan that you see all the time on the inside lining of jackets, the diamond stitching feels like the softest leather, but it's not leather. It's actually what they call vegan leather. So it's sort of very, very high-end synthetic material, and that's Alcantara, which is really hard wearing and beautiful, better than suede. This is colour coded to the outside of the car like the original Defender. Then you just got these subtle switches here for your forwards, your electric handbrake, reverse and your ignition. Once you've turned the original key, you press that and then you know it's alive. And of course when you're sat in traffic like this, the car's not using any power apart from maybe wipers or if I had the radio on, and that's it. I find driving electric cars in cities very calming, because even when it's chaotic like this, you can't control the congestion. Your little space is lovely and quiet. There's no vibration under the bonnet. You're not burning fuel just sitting here, wasting energy. One minute you can be very relaxed, the next minute you can be quite aggressive and power hungry. That really appeals to me. Okay, here we go, 20 miles an hour. Ready? This is how this Defender accelerates. My word! In fact, Richard at Electric Classic Cars has clocked this doing 0 to 60 in around 4 seconds. 4 seconds! It's driving my throat out. Bearing in mind, 0 to 62 in 4.5 seconds is an Aston Martin DBX or even a G-Wagon G63 AMG. You can feel that the weight is all really low. It doesn't want to lollop like a lot of Defenders do. It doesn't feel like a drunk rugby player. Bit of regen braking, look, at every traffic light, getting a bit of energy back into the system. The windscreen is your window into the world, and the world has changed a lot since I left Wales, that's for sure. I am about 400 metres away from Selfridges. I've got to go around to a different door. This is going to be pretty strange. I've done a few things with cars in my life. Don't think I've ever driven a car into a shop, on purpose at least. Here we are on Oxford Street. Okay, straight into the chaos. I've had the go-ahead from the security guys. It is really chaotic in here. We are driving just literally in to Selfridges. And this is where a Defender steering lock is difficult because I'm going to hit an escalator. We've got it into the Selfridges, ground floor, obviously. Right, okay. Oh, hang on. We've got to move a couple of mannequins, a couple of handbags. People say that you don't really use off-roaders to their full extent in the city. Well, I can tell you we've been through a couple of goods doors, up a couple of quite steep curbs. There's some trees that I've had to avoid, some trees there. We're now manoeuvring into position. Mind the Dior bags. How much are your hands worth? So there's multiple refits going on overnight. So tomorrow late morning this all opens for Sunday trading and it will all be Project Earth. There you go, delivered, safe and sound inside the shop. My work here is done. Selfridges Project Earth initiative and Barbour's Relove programme have come together to create this, to remind people that you don't necessarily have to buy brand new. You can take something old and completely revitalise it and it still is highly revered. And luckily I've delivered it in one piece.